to show blatant contempt for diplomacy. It consistently rejects credible peace proposals and ignores repeated calls for a full and unconditional ceasefire. Russia could end this war at any moment. Instead, it chooses escalation, launching strikes on peaceful cities and intensifying offensive operations in pursuit of military advantage. Russia also uses peace efforts to spread in manipulative narratives. Following a recent negotiation round held in Istanbul on July 23, its representatives made misleading public claims regarding the initial list of abducted children submitted earlier by Ukraine. We must clarify these facts. This initial list of 339 names was submitted by Ukraine as a confidence-building measure. To date, Russia has provided fragmented responses, offering partial information on fewer than 1/5 of the children. There has been no response at all concerning over 200 children, including those from the Kherson orphanage. Russia mentioned children from the list allegedly returned. In fact, only 6 children were returned, 5 of whom are siblings. This was the result of a year-long humanitarian effort mediated by the State of Qatar, a process demonstrating the power of third-party engagement and not Russian goodwill. The Kremlin continues to expand its war of aggression against Ukraine, drawing others into its campaign of terror, including the use of North Korean troops and Iranian-manufactured weapons. We therefore call on the United States and the international community to intensify coordinated pressure on the regime in Moscow and its military-industrial complex, as well as on those around the world who support and enable Russia's war of aggression effort. The time for action is now, and there is no room for delay. Mr. President, the Russian Federation has been extensively and systematically using anti-personnel landmines as a method of warfare against Ukraine's security and defense forces. When Ukraine signed and ratified the Ottawa Convention, it did so in good faith, relying on security assurances provided by the parties to the Budapest Memorandum. It could not have foreseen that a signatory to that very memorandum, the Russian Federation, would later on launch a legal, unprovoked, and unjustified full-scale military invasion of Ukraine. As a result of Russia's widespread use of landmines, Ukraine has found itself in an unequal and unjust situation that severely constrains its inherent right to self-defense as guaranteed by Article 51 of the UN Charter. Accordingly, and in line with Article 62 of the Vienna Convention on the Law of Treaties, Ukraine has taken difficult but necessary decision to suspend the operation of the 1997 Ottawa Convention. Mr. President, as none of the sovereign and independent member states of the United Nations would, nor will Ukraine accept the temporary occupation by the Russian Federation of any part of its sovereign territory. Ukraine seeks a comprehensive, just and lasting peace, one rooted in the principles of the United Charter and backed by credible, binding, and long-term security guarantees. A full, immediate, unconditional, and comprehensive ceasefire for at least 30 days remains a critical first step. It is the foundation for halting the war of aggression, restoring confidence, and enabling meaningful negotiations. At the last meeting in Istanbul, Ukraine clearly advocated for such a ceasefire. We also emphasized the importance of a high-level summit between leaders to lay the groundwork for a durable and comprehensive peace. Ukraine stands ready to convene such summit meeting till the end of August. The Security Council has a critical role to play at this juncture by expressing its unequivocal position on the urgent need to terminate hostilities as the first step towards comprehensive, just, and lasting peace for Ukraine on the basis of the UN Charter. In this context, we reiterate our call to the Council to adopt without delay a resolution demanding an immediate, full, and unconditional ceasefire. Ukraine strongly encourages all members of the Council to support and engage in moving forward this crucial initiative, thereby demonstrating a credible commitment to ending the war of aggression started by the Russian Federation. Thank you.
I thank the representative of Ukraine for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Poland.
Mr. President, at the outset, I would like to thank you for convening this meeting and the briefers for their important interventions. As Russia is persistently and brutally continuing to wage its unprovoked war of aggression against Ukraine, let me draw your attention to 4 critical points. First, recently we have witnessed a significant intensification of Russia's military campaign. Growing pressure along the front line is being reported, accompanied by the intense air raids across the country. The latest renewed long-range aviation activity by Russia close near to the Polish-Ukrainian border has prompted Poland to scramble our fighter jets several times to secure our airspace. I would like to draw this Council attention to this escalation. More than 24,000 drones has been launched against Ukraine's cities since the start of this year. In the first half of 2025, Russia killed and injured almost 7,000 Ukrainian civilians, over 50% more compared to the same period last year. By the beginning of July, Russia has reportedly enlisted over 700,000 servicemen to the war, a new grim record. Second, we commend the recent announcement by the US President Donald Trump, who continues his efforts to bring Russia to the negotiation table and engage in good faith negotiations. While Ukraine maintains its willingness to reach a just agreement, Russia's response remains blatantly predictable as they continue to mock all endeavors designed to bring genuine peace. Russian officials repeated Moscow's maximalist demands that have underpinned Russia's neo-colonial war from the day one, and which are built on the feverish dream to rule Ukraine and erase its independent identity. In Istanbul, once again, we learned that Kremlin is not interested in peace. The peace is so endlessly talked about while continuing to kill, maim, and steal somebody else's land. Third, supporting Ukraine state fighting with aggressor and providing assistance based on development and humanitarian needs remain Poland's priority. This was reflected also during the Polish presidency in the EU. From the very first day of the full-fledged war in Ukraine, Poland has been a gateway of aid not only for Ukrainian refugees, but also for European logistics, energy, and medical hubs. While the ongoing Russian aggression that brings immense suffering of civilian population and destruction of critical infrastructure in Ukraine, Poland has significantly increased its financial engagement. In 2024, we allocated more than $40 million for voluntary contributions transferred to international organizations to support Ukraine, including the UN system. Our development cooperation focuses on supporting reconstruction, civil protection, and crisis preparedness in Ukraine. Fourth, Russian war of aggression remains the main threat not only to the security of Europe and our region, but also to the whole international system based on the principles of the UN Charter and international humanitarian law, as well as to the UN system itself. Each day, Russia continues to openly violate the UN Charter, showing disrespect to jointly agreed rules and, above all, to human life. Moscow is strong-willed to reshape the world's order based on international law. This will not happen. The support for Ukrainians is our response to these Russian attempts. Poland strongly believes that a sovereign and independent Ukraine is an indispensable element of a stable world security architecture, as every peace-loving nation has the right to exist and participate in global cooperation. Therefore, we will continue to stand by Ukraine to defend its independence and secure a just and lasting peace based on international law. We are fully convinced that Ukraine is fighting not only for its own freedom, but also for the security of all free nations. Mr. President, in conclusion, we firmly appeal once again. It is time for Russia to end this illegal, brutal, and unsustainable war. We welcome Ukraine's interest in genuine negotiations and call Russia to engage in peace talks and to stop conducting the attacks on civilians and civilian infrastructure in Ukraine. Furthermore, we urgently, persistently call for the return of the kidnapped Ukrainian children. And I thank you.
I thank the representative of Poland for the statement. I now give the floor to His Excellency Mr. Stavros Lambrinidis, Head of the Delegation of the European Union to the United Nations.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for convening this meeting, and thanks to our distinguished briefers for sharing their assessment of the disastrous consequences of Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. The past weeks have seen the continuation of two trends. On the one hand, Ukraine has shown a genuine commitment to peace by continuing to call for an immediate unconditional ceasefire as a first step to ending this war. On the other hand, Russia has continued its indiscriminate missile and drone attacks on Ukrainian cities and towns. intentionally directing an attack against civilians or civilian objects or causing disproportionate civilian harm is a war crime. Earlier this month, the UN Human Rights Monitoring Mission in Ukraine published its report on the protection of civilians. It concluded that June 2025 saw the highest number of monthly civilian casualties in the past 3 years, with 232 people killed and 1,343 injured. This is unacceptable. I underline once again the EU's steadfast determination to put an end to Russia's war of aggression and to achieve a comprehensive, just and lasting peace, in line with the decisions of the UN General Assembly. We, as Europeans, together with Ukraine, have been working tirelessly to this end, and we welcome all efforts in that direction. We have joined Ukraine and international partners, including the United States, in calling for a full, unconditional, and immediate ceasefire. These pause in hostilities could serve as a vital step toward reducing civilian suffering and allow for further exchanges of prisoners of war and for the return of forcibly displaced Ukrainian children. Russia could end its war now. It could accept a full and unconditional ceasefire, as Ukraine has. We call on the Council to exert maximum pressure for a ceasefire. This would provide space for meaningful talks aimed at ending Russia's war of aggression and achieving a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace grounded in the principles of the UN Charter and international law. We urge Russia to cease its aggression and withdraw all its forces and military equipment from the entire territory of Ukraine immediately, completely, and unconditionally. I remind this Council that Ukraine has an inherent right of self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter. Russia is the aggressor. Ukraine is the party defending itself. There can be no sitting on the fence on this. Furthermore, the EU strongly condemns support by third countries and actors and entities therein which enable Russia to sustain its war of aggression. The EU condemns the continued military support provided by Iran, Belarus, and the DPRK. We urge all countries to immediately cease any direct or indirect assistance to Russia in its war of aggression. The European Union, Mr. President, underlines the importance of humanitarian relief effort and confidence-building measures, notably the exchange of prisoners of war, the release of civilians, and the return of all Ukrainian civilians, particularly children, that have been forcibly transferred or deported to Russia and Belarus. We commend the efforts of OCHA and its humanitarian partners in providing assistance to those in need. Full, safe, rapid, and unhindered humanitarian access must be facilitated for humanitarian relief to reach all civilians in need, including in areas under temporary Russian occupation. In closing, Mr. President, I reaffirm the EU's unwavering support for Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity within its internationally recognized borders. And I also cannot but note, Mr. President, that the Russian Federation, as it continues, including today, to shed crocodile tears for the oppressed of the world and for the UN Charter, is continuing to pursue with increased relentlessness its illegal war of aggression against Ukraine and against Ukrainian civilians. And while it is injecting hundreds of billions of dollars to its military to pursue its illegal war in Ukraine, it doesn't have a penny to offer to alleviate hunger, to alleviate poverty, to promote sustainable development for tens of countries around the world and their citizens who desperately need them. The hypocrisy, the double standards are eye-popping. We implore this Council to use all the powers in its disposal to be able to impose an unconditional and full ceasefire and to be able to promote a just, a lasting, a comprehensive peace in line with the UN Charter. We implore you. The European Union, on its part, will continue to support Ukraine for as long as it takes. Thank you.
I thank His Excellency Mr. Lambrinidis for his statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Latvia.
Mr. President, I have the honor to address the Council on behalf of three Baltic states, Estonia, Lithuania, and my own country, Latvia. And we thank the Presidency of the Council for convening this meeting, and we commend ASG Yencha and ASG Msuya for their comprehensive briefings and continued efforts. The UN plays a vital role in Ukraine, delivering life-saving humanitarian aid to those in need and ensuring that the facts of the war are documented with accuracy and impartiality, upholding the principles of human dignity and international accountability. Today, I would like to highlight three key messages. First, Russia's war causes immense civilian suffering and constitutes a flagrant breach of international law. Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine that has been going on for almost 3.5 years and continues to inflict widespread humanitarian devastation. Over the past weeks, Russia has further intensified its drone and missile attacks, systematically targeting civilians and civilian infrastructure, including hospitals, power grids, and schools. Many innocent lives have been lost. And these are not isolated cases. They represent a calculated campaign of terror and destruction. International humanitarian law is being ignored. The Security Council must not look away. And the international community must go beyond statements. We must act decisively to safeguard civilians and bring perpetrators to justice. Baltic states commend Ukraine's humanitarian coordination and resilience under this barrage of fire. We also welcome the results of the Fourth Ukraine Recovery Conference that took place in Rome on 10 and 11 July 2025. It showed mobilized further international support and investment for Ukraine's reconstruction, reform, and modernization. Second, the path to peace must begin with Russia ceasing its war. We note the Ukraine-Russia meeting held on Wednesday in Istanbul upon the initiative of President Zelensky. Russia's usual pattern of response, yet again another record-scale indiscriminate attacks on Ukrainian cities, reveals its true intentions: escalation, not peace. No one wants an end to this war and civilian suffering more than the Ukrainians. Hence, we call on for the international support to a full, unconditional ceasefire, to which Ukraine has already committed, as the first step towards real negotiations. And so far, Russia has been utterly insincere in its offers of a ceasefire, showing that it fears peace more than war. It is up to Russia now to demonstrate genuine readiness to engage to end the war. Finally, a just peace in Ukraine must be based on the UN Charter and international law. Russia's illegal war against Ukraine is a frontal assault on the principles of the UN Charter. Russia's attempt to invoke root causes buys into the false historical narrative and tries to justify Russia's imperial ambitions and idea of multipolar instead of multilateral world. And the Baltic states reaffirm our full support to Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity within its internationally recognized borders. And we will never recognize Ukraine's occupation, neither de jure nor de facto. Mr. President, Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine is not a regional issue. Its consequences extend far beyond. And we have a collective responsibility to uphold the UN Charter and ensure respect for international law. And I thank you.
I thank the representative of Latvia for the statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.